All right, part 2. Here we go. The rest. So you're going to want to sprinkle a little bit of flour onto a working surface that you have cleaned. I use bread flour again. Then you're going to coax the dough out. I use a little paddle type thing. I've used a rice paddle before. And you're just going to kind of scrape the edges and get the dough to all come out onto that flour. And then once you've gotten the majority of it out, then take that scraper and just go along the edges of your bowl. Scoop every last bit of that goodness out. And then just place it right on top of your sourdough. And then you're going to put that bowl to the side because you're going to need it again. You're going to put a little, you're going to put a towel on top of that bowl and then sprinkle a little flour on top of that towel because we're going to put the dough back onto that towel after we have shaped it. So put a little bit of flour on it, put it to the side, and then you're just going to let your dough sit there and rest for about 5 minutes just to kind of let it have a little rest after it's done a hard job of coming out of the bowl. So let it sit for about 5 minutes and then we're going to start shaping it. So first we're going to do about 4 sets of stretch and folds again. And we're just gently shaping it into a circle after it's come out of the bowl. So about 4 sets of stretch and folds. There's air bubbles in mine. That's why you see me picking at it. And then flip it over. And then I sprinkle a little more flour and I start to just cup with my hands around the sides of the dough. And while I'm turning the dough, I'm pressing inward underneath. So I'm wanting that bottom seam to close up. So I just continue to cup and turn. And then every so often I'm going to pull the dough towards me to tighten up the top. And you'll see the dough. You can visibly see that it starts to tighten at the top. Trying to get a tight ball. If there are air bubbles, again, I had a lot of air bubbles in this one. I'm not sure why. So I just picked them out. You don't have to. Some people like the way it looks. But you just continue to cup and turn and pull it towards you until you feel like it's a pretty good tight ball. And then once you've got it where you want it, I think I do some more some more cupping. Once you've got it where you want it, you're going to flip it over and put it seam side up back into that bowl that we put a towel on. My dough was a little sticky, so I don't like to put a ton of extra flour, so I mostly put it on my hands and not on the dough itself. So keep cupping, pulling it towards you until you've got it nice and tight, and then you're going to flip it over, seam side up, so I'll flip it right there, and put it back into that bowl, and then you're just going to, you can cover it if you want and just let it rest for 1 to 2 hours. There are a ton of tests you can do to see if it's ready. I don't do any of those. I know how much time I have and I wait 1 to 2 hours. So then we're going to move into the scoring section. So you need either a razor blade or a knife for this, and you're going to want your Dutch oven ready to go. I put a little trivet in the bottom of mine just to keep it from coming in direct contact with the bottom of the Dutch oven. That is not necessary. I only have it for that one Dutch oven. I don't have it for my other Dutch oven. So, and then you're going to cover the bowl with parchment paper and flip it over, and obviously remove the towel. And your dough is ready to score. So I sprinkle a little flour on mine and just kind of cover it somewhat evenly with a little flour so that when it breaks, that seam breaks open, it kind of looks prettier. And I was picking out some more air bubbles of mine at this point. All right, so I take my razor and on this one, I did like a leaf pattern. So I went along and made a curved line. I'm going to show you that. And then I put little, I did it twice. You don't necessarily have to if you get it deep enough the first time. And then I put little dashes along the edges of that, which are just kind of making a leaf pattern there. And then I also did that on the other side of the loaf. I'm going to do the same thing, just a little smaller. I just think it looks pretty. It's not necessary for you to do that. You don't even have to score it. You can just let it break on its own. But if you go ahead and score it, then it you can make a little pattern, kind of get artistic with it. There's lots of videos on different types of scoring patterns. I almost always do the same one because it's pretty and it's easy to do and it comes out good every time. So once you've scored it, we're going to put it into the Dutch oven and go ahead and cover the Dutch oven with your lid. And the next part is just kind of figure out what works best for you. Some people leave it in the oven with the lid on for about 20 minutes, and then they bake it for about 20 minutes without the lid. Some people bake it for longer. If you don't like a hard crust, you might want to bake it with the lid on the whole time and only take it off a few minutes at the end just to crisp up a little. This time, I preheated my oven to 500, and then I turned it down to 450 right before I put the loaf in. I also tend to put if I can remember it, I put a baking sheet on the very bottom rack just to help the heat distribute a little more evenly. And then just place the Dutch oven on the middle rack. And again, you just play around with it, figure out what works best for you. I did it, like I said, this loaf, particular loaf, I did it with 30 minutes for the lid on. Took the lid off for about 10 minutes, and then I took it directly out of the Dutch oven and put it onto the rack for 5 to 10 minutes until I thought it was nice and crispy, and it turned out really well. It looked really pretty. That lip kind of got a little bit crispier than I like it, but it looked good, so that didn't really matter. And then the bottom side should not be burnt. It should look good. If it is burned, there's lots of methods you can look up on how to not burn the bottom of your sourdough bread. But the trivet seems to work every time, so I think that's a great technique. My next video, I will show you how to make sourdough loaf in a loaf pan.